What is going wrong with Pep Guardiola's Manchester City? That's the question echoing across the footballing world today. A team once hailed as invincible is now struggling with a record-breaking slump. 5 consecutive losses in all competitions, a shocking 0-4 defeat at home to Tottenham, and an air of uncertainty surrounding their title defense. This is not the Manchester City we've come to know under Pep Guardiola, the mastermind who revolutionized football with his relentless pressing, positional play, and tactical genius. But this season, cracks are beginning to show. Injuries to key players, a lack of squad depth, tactical misfires, and psychological pressure seem to have coalesced into a perfect storm. Even Guardiola, known for his adaptability, appears to be running out of answers. As Liverpool and Arsenal continue their strong form, the gap at the top of the table is widening, leaving City's dominance in question. So, what's truly happening behind the scenes? Is this a temporary blip, or are we witnessing the beginning of a larger decline for Guardiola's City? Today, let's delve into the heart of the issue and dissect what's dragging this footballing juggernaut into unfamiliar territory. Buckle up, it's time to unravel the mystery. Let's start with the obvious: 5 consecutive losses. For any team, this would be a cause for concern. But for Manchester City, under Pep Guardiola, it's an anomaly of historic proportions. This is the man who has never endured such a slump in his managerial career. Suddenly, the fortress of Etihad Stadium is breached and the champions of England look unrecognizable. That crushing 0-4 defeat against Tottenham at home wasn't just another loss. It was a psychological hammer blow. Manchester City, the team known for dictating play and suffocating opponents, were dismantled on their own turf. The aura of invincibility Pep had painstakingly built over the years took a severe hit, and with it, the confidence of his players. Football isn't just played with your feet, it's played with your mind. When a team as dominant as City hits a rough patch, it breeds doubt. Players second-guess their decisions. Passes that were once instinctive now feel hesitant, and as the pressure mounts from fans, media, and rivals, the psychological toll only deepens. The question looms: how long before cracks in confidence become full-blown fractures in team cohesion? Compounding this is the weight of expectation. Guardiola's City aren't just expected to win, they're expected to dominate. Anything less feels like failure. And this season, the players are carrying the burden of past glories while struggling to find the same spark. The fear of letting Guardiola down, of falling short of their lofty standards, adds another layer of pressure. Let's not forget the influence of external voices. Every pundit, fan, and rival is analyzing City's collapse. The relentless scrutiny is enough to unsettle even the strongest minds. In moments like these, leadership becomes pivotal. Guardiola's ability to reignite the fire in his players will be tested like never before. The psychological fallout of losing is often underestimated, but for City, it's clear that these defeats aren't just about tactics or individual performances. They're about a collective mindset that needs rebuilding. Whether Guardiola can repair the mental scars in time will determine whether this slump is just a blip or the beginning of something far more concerning. Alright, let's talk about the elephant in the room: injuries and suspensions. Manchester City's squad, as star-studded as it is, simply isn't firing on all cylinders this season. And honestly, how could they when they're missing some of their most pivotal players? Kevin De Bruyne, the creative heartbeat of this team, has been out for months due to injury. Think about it. The guy's not just a midfielder, he's the player who sees passes others can't even dream of. His absence isn't just about numbers or assists, it's about control, tempo, and the fear he instills in opponents. Without him, City's midfield lacks that spark of unpredictability, that X-factor to break stubborn defenses. And then there's Rodri, the unsung hero of Pep's system. When he was suspended, it felt like the entire defensive structure collapsed. City's reliance on him as a defensive shield became painfully obvious. Opponents started slicing through their midfield like a hot knife through butter. It's one thing to lose a star attacker, it's another to lose the guy who holds your entire tactical setup together. Now, here's the real kicker. You'd think a squad as deep as City's could cope, right? After all, we're talking about a team with a bench worth more than most clubs' starting X is. But here's where reality bites. The depth isn't as reliable as it seems. Sure, they've got options, but are they the right ones? Take Calvin Phillips, for instance. Brought in as a backup for Rodri, he's barely featured and hasn't looked convincing when given the chance. The same goes for players like Matheus Nunes. Talented, yes, but not yet integrated into Pep's demanding system. The gap between City's first-choice players and their backups is glaring. Even more concerning is the reliance on aging stars. Players like Ilkay Gundogan, who left for Barcelona, and Bernardo Silva, who's been inconsistent, were the glue holding this team together. Their replacements, still trying to fill those big boots. It's a transition phase, no doubt, but it's one that's costing City dearly. Here's the thing. No team is immune to injuries or dips in form. But for City, the issue is deeper. The cracks in their squad depth aren't just exposing them, they're magnifying the impact of every absence. And let's be real, no system, no matter how brilliant, can function at its peak without its key components. Pep's greatest strength has always been his ability to adapt, but even the best need the right tools. Right now, City's toolbox is looking a little empty. The question is, can they patch things up before the damage becomes irreparable? Let's shift our focus to the attack because, let's face it, Manchester City's offensive machine is no longer the relentless force it used to be. The drop-off in goals this season has been staggering, from averaging 2.3 goals per game last year to a mere 0.8 in this current slump. It's like watching a lion struggle to hunt. What's going on? First, we have to talk about Erling Haaland. This guy was a goal-scoring phenomenon last season, breaking records, terrifying defenders, and making it all look effortless. But this season, he's starting to look isolated. Why? Because without Kevin De Bruyne threading those needle-sharp passes into the danger zone, Haaland's supply line has been severely disrupted. A striker of his caliber thrives on service, and right now, City isn't delivering. Then there's the wing play, or the lack thereof. City has always relied on dynamic wingers to stretch defenses, create space, and deliver those killer balls into the box. But this season, the inconsistency of Jack Grealish and Phil Foden on the flanks has been a real issue. Some games they're brilliant, slicing through defenses like butter. Other times they're anonymous, drifting in and out without making an impact. And don't get me started on Riyad Mahrez's departure, a move that left a noticeable void in terms of creativity and experience. Another glaring issue, the midfield. De Bruyne's absence is one thing, but even Bernardo Silva and Julian Alvarez, who were expected to step up, have been unable to consistently provide that cutting edge. When the midfield isn't firing, the attack suffers. It's as simple as that. City's opponents have figured out that by clogging the midfield and cutting off Haaland's supply, they can neutralize one of the most dangerous attacks in football. And let's not forget about Pep's tactics. For years, Guardiola's positional play has been the gold standard, but this season it feels like teams are figuring it out. They're sitting deep, staying compact, and springing deadly counterattacks. City's attack, once fluid and unpredictable, now seems a little too methodical, a little too predictable. What's worrying is how this impacts the team mentally. When City struggles to score, the frustration is palpable. Players force passes, take wild shots, and lose the composure that has defined them under Pep. It's a vicious cycle. The more they press for goals, the less fluid they become. So, what's the solution? It's not easy. Pep needs to find a way to reconnect his midfield and attack, get his wingers firing again, and unlock Haaland's potential without De Bruyne. It's a tall order, but if anyone can do it, it's Guardiola. The question is, will he find the answers in time to save City's season? Now let's dive into Manchester City's defensive issues because, let's be real, conceding 14 goals in 5 games is simply unthinkable for a Pep Guardiola team. This is the manager who built his reputation on defensive solidity and tactical mastery. So, what's gone wrong? First and foremost, the absence of Rodri has been a nightmare. As the midfield anchor, Rodri's role extends far beyond breaking up attacks. He's the pivot that allows City's defenders to maintain their high line without fear of being exposed. And then there's the pressing issue. Guardiola's system relies heavily on collective pressing to win the ball high up the pitch, but this season the pressing has been inconsistent. Opponents are finding ways to bypass City's press, leaving their defense exposed to counterattacks. But let's not just blame the personnel. Tactically, Pep's decision to experiment with inverted fullbacks and overloads in midfield has left City's backline exposed. These tactics worked wonders last season, but teams have adapted. If there's one thing Pep Guardiola is known for, it's his tactical brilliance. The man is a chess grandmaster on the football pitch, always thinking 5 moves ahead. But this season, it feels like his tactics are being countered more effectively than ever. So, what's changed? One of the biggest tactical challenges this season has been finding a balance between control and creativity. Without Kevin De Bruyne, the midfield lacks the dynamism to unlock deep defenses. Pep's solution? Overloading the midfield with inverted fullbacks and an additional playmaker. On paper, it's a smart move. In practice, it's left City vulnerable to transitions. The spaces that open up when fullbacks tuck inside have become a hunting ground for opponents. In the end, football is a game of evolution. Opponents evolve, tactics evolve, and even the greatest managers must adapt. Pep has done it before, and he'll need to do it again. The challenge isn't just about fixing a broken system, it's about staying ahead in a league that's learning how to beat him. So what's next for Manchester City? It's clear that this isn't just a rough patch. It's a culmination of injuries, tactical issues, psychological pressure, and the natural challenges of sustaining dominance in football's most competitive league. Pep Guardiola, for all his genius, is facing a problem that no single adjustment can fix. This isn't about tweaking formations or giving players a pep talk. It's about rediscovering the identity that made Manchester City unstoppable in the first place. The road ahead is tough. Liverpool and Arsenal are surging forward, and City is being chased by a pack of ambitious challengers. Every fixture now feels like a test, not just of tactics, but of resolve. Yet, if there's one thing Guardiola has proven throughout his career, it's his resilience. He's rebuilt teams, revolutionized systems, and turned doubters into believers. This moment isn't just a challenge, it's an opportunity. An opportunity for City to prove that they are more than just a team of superstars, more than a tactical masterpiece. It's a chance to show they can endure, adapt, and overcome, because champions aren't defined by their victories, they're defined by how they rise after falling. The question now is, can Guardiola and Manchester City rise once again? Time will tell.